So you ever have one of those days where the forecast is just terrible and you're like, I don't care, I'm just going fishing, and you get out there and you think, man, this was a really big mistake? Yeah, me neither. I mean, I'd rather be fishing than doing anything else, so what the heck? Well, the trip I made at the end of last week was absolutely that way. I mean, just abysmal conditions, brutally hard northwest wind. I mean, it was howling, but I fished a technique that is perfect for putting speckled trout in the boat on those windy days, and it definitely paid dividends that day. Take a look at the action.
So I'm right now just hunting for fish, just trying to find any speckled trout. So I like to do that with a cork when I'm fishing these flats, just trying to cover as much water as possible and hope to run across something. It's more difficult to fish deep water on windy days like today because you can't read the water. You just can't see where those shallow areas are, where the deep areas are, and focus your efforts accordingly. So days like today, I tend to do more cork fishing. I suspect I may have to get way back in the marsh today and find some prettier water, because this stuff is not nice at all. All right, there's a fish. Speckled trout too, speckled trout. It's a nice one. It's a nice speckled trout. Oh goodness. All right, that is a big trout. Spot lock us. That is a hefty trout. Look at this guy. Look at his maw. Look at that. That might be a 20-inch trout. 19 inches. Look at this guy. That's a big trout. That's a nice fish. Definitely happy to catch this fish on it. Definitely happy to catch this fish on a day like today. Man, this wind is just terrible. I mean, it is terrible. I gotta tell you, there aren't many days with conditions as bad as these. You get these days, you just gotta really manage your expectations. Each fish really means a lot.
This episode of Marsh Man Masson brought to you by Puglia Sporting Goods.
I'm not gonna be out here long, I can tell you. I'm gonna go back in the marsh and get some protected water, because this wind is just killing me. Just so uncomfortable to fish in. It's blowing low 20s at least. That's what it was blowing when I left, according to the buoys, and it hadn't let up, I can tell you that. Oh, you sucker. God dang it. Just missed one. That's 2 hits. All right, so you know I love these death grip jig heads, right? But I'm gonna show you something you gotta keep in mind if you intend to use them. The jig heads are so good that you will never have a bait slide down. And so after a while, your baits are gonna start to look funky and you're gonna have to take them off and switch them out. I'm fishing right now with a shrimp creole matrix shad, and I've probably used it, I don't know, 2 or 3 trips, and it looks absolutely terrible just because it's been on there so long and it's been torn up by speckled trout. Let me show you the difference. Okay, so that's the one I have on now, right? It's now kind of nicotine stained, kind of tobacco yellow. This is a fresh one, just taken out of the box. Look at the difference in color. Look at that. All right, there's a fish. There's one. Changing that bait made a world of difference. Good solid fish. 15, maybe 16. I'm gonna say 15-inch speckled trout. Skinny fish, but really pretty. Look how beautiful that is. Gotta love it. There's another one. Speckled trout. Not a big fish, but he's definitely a keeper. All right. 14-inch fish. We will take him. So where I started, the water was a lot more stained, and I just drifted, made a long drift, and came into this area, and it's green, beautiful water. And not surprisingly, this is where all the fish are. Again, that's the value of drifting and cork fishing this time of year on bad condition days, just to find areas where those fish are holding. Now, fishing this Versamax Bolt, which gives you a supreme advantage with this style of fishing because you can change your depth so easily. You don't have to retie on a new leader. It makes a world of difference. I change my depth constantly until I find some fish. I would never, ever fish a different cork. And I gotta tell you, this cork attracts fish. It just does. Some do, some don't, and this one does. And there are other corks that attract fish, I can tell you that, certainly. But this is the only one that I know of, at least, that allows you to change the depth. But it's really got everything you want in a cork. Speckled trout. Oh, a gill rattling frenzy. Man, I love it. I'll tell you what, there's some really solid fish in this area. Man, it's a pretty fish. 16 inches or so. I will take him. A day like today, I will happily take him. There's one. Another beautiful fish. Man, these fish are nice. I know a lot of you from out of town, you like to diss our Louisiana fish because we keep so many 12-inch trout, but these are not 12-inch trout today. It's another 15-incher or so. Big fat fish. Barely hooked, but got him in the boat, and now he gets a boat ride home. Oh, look at that little slick popped up. It's a good sign. I don't know if you can see it, it's right over here. See if I can get this one in the boat. It's a lot smaller. I don't know if he's gonna make the cut. He is not a big fish. But he's big enough. Bigger than I thought he was, about 13 inches.
This episode of Marsh Man Masson brought to you by Matrix Shad, and by Cito New Orleans, and by Versamax Corks, and by Death Grip Jig Heads.
There's another one. There's another. That's a nicer fish. That's a nicer fish. He won't come up at all. That's a good fish. Man, I gotta see him. All right, nice speckled trout. And he's not happy about his current predicament. But I am. There's one. All right. Man, they're pretty fish. All out of the same mold. 14 to 15 inches. Definitely don't have to measure them. Beautiful, beautiful fish. Oh, the weather outside is frightful, but the fire is so delightful. Since we have no place to go, let it blow, let it blow, let it blow. There he is. Threw right in his mouth. Ah, come on, buddy. Get the boat. All right, big trout. Nice trout. Look at this. I will take him. Man, he's a good fish. These are the decisions that are tough to make. I could definitely sit here, fish on. That's a good fish. That's a nice one. Man, they're all nice today. Man, I tell you what, that's the smallest fish. He was strong though. Probably the smallest fish of the day, and I thought he was the biggest. As I was saying, it's tough to make these decisions, whether to sit here and ride this out. I could definitely catch a limited trout here. Heck, I'm not that far now. There's another one. Oh man, these fish powerful. I tell you what, it's incredible. Again, not the biggest fish of the day, but he fought hard. Come on, dude. So as I was saying, I could sit here and round out my limit, or I could go back in the marsh and target reds and bass. Really more reds than bass. Bass seem to be nowhere around this year, but I'm still having fun, so why leave? There used to be a time in my life where I was all about the limit. Wasn't happy if I went home with less than a limit, and I'm just not that way anymore. I really couldn't care less. Obviously, I want to have success. I want to catch enough to eat. If I'm having friends and family over, I want to catch enough for a fish fry, but I want to catch just enough, not extra. I remember days freezing fish, and a year later, finding the fish at the bottom of the freezer, all freezer burnt and nasty, and throwing them out, and it's just pointless to me. I keep what I can eat fresh, and then the rest I release, or I just stop fishing. Look at this fish. What in the world? I saw my cork going sideways. This is a tiny, tiny speckled trout. Oh, and look, something hit him. Something took a chunk out of him. This poor guy. Seen a bunch of loons around here. I bet it was a loon. Now I think he's gonna feed a crab, poor guy. I'm almost scared to say this. Oh, man, that was a good trout. Good takedown. I blew it. I'm almost scared to say this, but the wind, I think, is letting off the gas pedal just a little bit. I'm sure I'll get some gusts here and there, but there's a fish. Good trout, good trout. Is there a prettier sight in the world than this? I don't think. Oh man, that's a good fish. That's a good fish. That might be the second biggest of the day. It might be the biggest, actually. That's a good fish. Look at that slab. Man, is he fat. Such a freaky looking fish, aren't they? Speckled trout. Just incredible. Well, I didn't dream I was gonna catch a limit of speckled trout today. I'm not there yet, but I'm getting close. Given these conditions, man, that's just a stellar day. There's a fish. He is not big. He'll probably make the team, but he's not big. Yeah, he'll definitely make the team if he gets in the boat. Oh yeah. I'm gonna measure him just to be sure, but I think he's about 13 inches. Yep, 13. Yeah, forget what I said about the wind. It's back. You can't tell that that's a cork? Are you stupid? You're supposed to have good vision. All right, I think I'm gonna call it. I got plenty enough trout. Great success, especially given these conditions. Just absolutely fantastic day. All right, so that wind that I thought was letting up isn't. In fact, it may have just picked up. It is blowing a hurricane today. So I've got plenty enough fish. I'm doing a family fish fry tomorrow night. I'm gonna go ahead and call it. But a lot of you ask about gear that I use in these videos, and I'm definitely very particular about my gear. I match the gear to the style of fishing that I'm doing. Today, of course, all about the corks, deadly technique, particularly in the fall on windy days, fall and winter, and spring. It's really pretty much good all year. But I never would have found these fish if I hadn't fished this technique, just covering a ton of water, popping that cork. When you hit some fish, you just stop, stick a Cajun anchor if you got one. Better yet, hit spot lock on your iPilot. Hold in that area, make a bunch of casts, see what you can do. And when it peters out, resume your drift. So what I like to use when I'm cork fishing is a long rod. I like a rod at least 7 feet. Now, having said that, this rod here, it's a Shimano Curado. Now, Curado, of course, is one of Shimano's reels, but they also have labeled these rods Curado. This one's only 6 feet 10 inches, so it's a little bit shorter than 7 feet, but it's close enough. Now, a few things I like about this rod: it's a medium power rod, so it's got a little bit of give in the actual backbone of the rod, but it's got a fast tip. This tip is really, really stiff. You know, it's got some give. You can see that medium flex, but there's not a whole lot in the tip. And the reason for that, the reason that's good for cork fishing, is because when that cork goes down, you got to take in your line and really hit that fish. You've got to do all that as quickly as you can. And a long rod allows you to move a lot of line quickly. Now, team with this rod, I've got a Shimano Ultegra. I think this is a 2000 or 2500. Very happy with this reel. It's not terribly old. I've had it maybe 6 months or so, but it seems to be holding up well. And spooled on here is some Daiwa J-braid. It's what I've been using lately, and man, I'm really happy with it. I've got no complaints at all about this. This is fused braid. It's not that limp braid. It does have some actual kind of body to it, some texture. That's what I prefer. I've got that tied, of course, to this VersaMax bolt cork, flexible titanium wire. Allows you to adjust the depth of your leader. I've probably got about 5 feet of line on here. I don't ever fish 5 feet. I can't say never, but seldom. But I'll fish it somewhere between 2 feet, 3 feet, sometimes as much as 4 feet. And it's very, very easy to adjust on here. This is 30-pound fluorocarbon leader. Very low vis, obviously fluorocarbon sinks. I like that. And then tied to it, I've got a 1/16 ounce death grip jig head teamed with a Shrimp Creole matrix shad. For the past few weeks, this Shrimp Creole has been the color. Obviously, if you're fishing dirty water, you don't want to fish this. But I found this pocket of beautiful water today, and this bait definitely delivered the goods, with that caveat of changing the bait when it starts getting a little funky. So that top to bottom is what I used. Now, another thing I failed to mention about this Curado rod is that it's really, really light. You know, when you're popping a cork all day, you can get worn out, and that takes a lot longer to happen with this light rod. So I'm very, very happy with this outfit. All right, well, hopefully you enjoyed the video. I got something out of it. That was a lot of fun for me today, catching these trout in some really adverse conditions. That's why this time of year, you just got to go to know. Well, don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section. And until next time, if we don't see you in the marsh, we'll see you right here on Marsh Man Masson.